am Wendy. This is my weekly series, Love, Gloss, and Lipstick. I think this is part 19. I record it live on Facebook every week, and then I move it to my YouTube channel because Facebook will delete it. So I'm just telling my love story while I get ready for work. And when I'm finished putting my makeup on, I'll be finished for today. Left off last week, just had a baby. So our son was born on a Tuesday. I worked all the way up till I didn't work on Mondays, but I worked the week prior. I didn't take any time off. I was the only one that was working regularly. And then I didn't take any time off afterwards. But when Steve got to the hospital, he had stopped and he picked up Marin and brought her. My mom and my aunt had rode with me. So going home from the hospital that afternoon, my mom was going to be driving my aunt and Marin home in my car, which she had never driven on the, I say freeway, the interstate in Nashville before, but she was following a friend of mine from the salon came to see us, and so mom was going to be able to follow her home, so I felt confident that they would get there. I had said we were like cash pay for the delivery, so I didn't want any extra charges for anything. I knew I could deliver naturally because I had done it the first time, and so that was my plan. And I didn't tell Steve. I didn't want any extra charges for food or Tylenol or anything else. So he had stayed with me and Cam a little bit longer after mom and everybody left. And then he went home. So like I said, I didn't tell him that I hadn't eaten anything, but even the nurses are like, you know, you haven't eaten anything. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm really not that hungry. And I was staying the night. So by the next day, I ordered a turkey sandwich. And that's when I found out that my meals were included in the price that they gave me. Would have been good to know. But I was fine. Steve came and picked us up, and we went home. So that week, I had a couple clients come to my house to get their hair done, which is just, it's really funny how some people can be about their hair. If, you know, if I was going on vacation or if I was having a baby, and they would be like, who's gonna do my hair? So I had people come to my house to do their hair. And I took that week off from going into the salon, but I did go right back to work the next week. I was the only one working, so it was what it was. And my mom was staying until the baby could go to daycare. So she was home while I went to work, and it was fine. Unfortunately, because we didn't have, you know, any money, I had 3 showers, which was nice, but I ended up like returning gifts so I could get diapers. You know, you just do what you gotta do. And Steve was feeling, you know, he wasn't working regularly, and he actually went to a temp agency to see if he could get a temporary job while he was really trying to break in to the television industry. I mean, it was crazy because when we were in LA, they were like, yeah, you know, if you were here, we'd give you more work. And so we come here and they're like, well, you know, it's a good old boys network and you're from Los Angeles, you know, if you were from here. So it just, whatever. But Steve was not above doing whatever he had to do. to take care of his family. And of course, you know, I appreciated that. So he went to a temp agency, but his options were really limited because he didn't have a college degree, and he was not a U.S. citizen. If you saw that episode, he was a legal resident, but he was not a U.S. citizen. And he didn't have any experience in anything except for television. So it narrowed it down. He had two options. He could work in a pig slaughterhouse or a mattress factory. So he chose the mattress factory. And I've said over and over that he never did anything halfway, or I mean, everything he did 100%. So he was such a good worker at the mattress factory. They kept offering him permanent full-time position, which he didn't want. And he felt bad. But, you know, he was doing what he had to do. And it was helping. It was helping. He wasn't getting paid a lot, but it was, you know, buying food. He had an idea, always had an idea, you know, for a show, another show. And so he started working on putting together a special. It was that year was the 25th anniversary of the moonwalk. So he was trying to see what kind of a special he could do with that. And in the meantime, we were just living. We were just living life. Everything was good. As good as it could be. Now my work came to us. We had a salon meeting or something. And they mentioned they were thinking about offering or getting a group insurance plan. Health insurance. And I was totally interested in that. I just, you know, we didn't have any health insurance. And now with 2 kids, I always thought, you know, it's an extra expense, but I felt like it was important. And so that was really great that we were going to have health insurance. So that was a win. And now I had been in Nashville for over a year now, so I was feeling much more acclimated. We did go home for Thanksgiving and got to see my aunt who had come for Cam's birth. And I don't even think I mentioned, you know, I said last week that she came for Cam's birth and she was sick. She had cancer and was going through treatments. And Cam was born on her birthday. And so that was kind of cool that they shared a birthday. But we went back for Thanksgiving. Had kind of a rough winter in Nashville. Had a bad snow. It was our first big snow. So of course that was fun for Marin for about 5 minutes. For you people that live, you know, in cold climate, you get them all layered up and all bundled up and nice and warm, and then you go outside and then like 10 minutes later, they're over it. Want to come in for hot chocolate or have to go to the bathroom or whatever, but it was fun. It was fun to experience that. I had also been sharing my love of baseball with our daughter. Steve was a hockey guy, and I was a hockey mom now. I mean, I was all on board, loved hockey. But I was hoping that Marin would want to play softball. And we had been playing out in the backyard, like wiffle ball. And I got her one of those, like Fisher-Price tees. And anyways, we were having a really good time with that. And then in the spring, there were sign-ups. I missed T-ball. I missed the sign-ups for that, but they did have Coach Pitch. She was 4. And 8 and under was the only age group. But she was 4, but she looked like she was 8. She looked a lot bigger than some of the kids that were on the team. And so we signed up. Steve and I took her to Play It Again Sports to get her a glove and a bat. Of course, we knew nothing. We knew nothing about that. Ended up getting her a glove that was way too big and a bat that was huge and heavy. But practice started, and her coach, his name was Ashley, and the assistant coach's name was Steve. They both had girls that played on the team. And Ashley's wife, Denise, was the team mom. So I mention this because it's going to come up again later. And we got off to a good start. Marin came up to bat at practice, and she actually made contact with the ball. Surprise. But she didn't know, she didn't know what to do. So she just stood there. And Coach Steve was the one up on first base. And he kept saying, "Run, Marin, run, Marin." And she just stood there. And then he yelled, "Hustle, Marin, hustle." And I thought, okay, she has no idea what that even means. He ran down, he came to home plate and grabbed her by the arm and like drug her up the first baseline to get her to first base. It was adorable. But when practice ended, I went over. I'm like, "Hey, can I talk to you for a second?" And he said, "Sure." I said, "I don't think Marin has ever heard the word hustle, so I don't know that she knows what that means. If you might want to explain it, or I can explain it to her. But also, just giving you a heads up, which I'm sure you know, but in case you don't know, she's only 4, so it might take her, a minute to figure out what's going on here." He was like, "Oh my gosh, she's only 4. He said, "I feel terrible. I just drug a 4-year-old up the line." And I said, "Well, it's fine." She was fine. But that was going to be, her first softball season, which, again, we'll save it for later, but that was kind of a big deal in her life. But anyway, so Cam was going to be turning 1 May 30th. So it's already been about a year. And Steve was working on that TV special, and he was reaching out to corporate sponsors and looking for people and, trying to put meetings together. And his job at the mattress factory was interfering. He's like, "This is really hard to be getting phone calls and, trying to have meetings while I'm at work." So he did end up quitting that job and giving this special his full attention. It really needed it. And it was coming along. There was definitely some interest, and he needed to shop it to networks and do all the things. But it was coming along. For Cam's birthday, I was just going to have the neighbors over, and our next door neighbors, Jim and Regina, and then they had their 2 kids. Their kids were about the same age, but it was just going to be a small little party. And Steve was working, and he wasn't home yet, and things were starting. And I'm like, "Hey, we're waiting for you." And he said, "Well, don't wait. I don't know what time I'm going to be there." And I don't remember where he was. He was working on something, but I don't remember what it was. Because at this time, he didn't really have an office to go to. So I'm a little fuzzy on that. All I know is he wasn't there. And he's like, "Don't wait for me. It's a weeknight. people need to get up and go to work in the morning, so, you know, we don't want to keep them too late. And I thought, you know, this is kind of a big deal. It was Cam's birthday. And I know that he felt like Cam wouldn't know the difference if he was there or not. But it made me really sad that he wasn't there. Because of course there's pictures. And he never really could explain to me what that was about. So that was really weird. But anyways, we had the party and we smashed the cake and did all the things without him. And then when he did come home, it was like, no big deal. Like, you know, it was just any other night. So about a week after that, we were having a terrible storm. And Marin was always kind of afraid of storms. And so she was not able to sleep. And so Steve went and laid down with her in her bed. And he fell asleep in there with her. So I just left them. And in the wee hours of the morning, Steve came in to our bedroom and laid down. And he was kind of like hemming and hawing and kind of restless and sighing and making noise. And I'm like, you know, I was trying to sleep. So I'm like, what's the deal? He said, I think I just slept funny in Marin's bed. He said his shoulder was really hurting. I'm like, oh, you know, that's weird. And so I said, you know, maybe you can go to the chiropractor. He's like, yeah, maybe. And he said, you know, I think I'm just going to get up and take a shower. So I said, okay. And I went back to sleep, and he was in the shower, and then he came back, and he laid back down, and he was really uncomfortable. Well, now I had health insurance, and I'm like, you know what? I remember seeing in our insurance that they have this Ask a Nurse, like where you can just call up and talk to a nurse. And I said, do you want me to do that? And then it was too early. It had, you know, certain hours. And so I could tell that he was like in some distress. So I said, you want to go to the emergency room? And he said, yeah. And I'm like, oh shit. So anyways, I'm done for today. So I will pick this up next week. But thank you for watching. See you next week.